Hello adventurers and welcome back to the Red Quills. This week we're diving back into a combination map. I'm using painting, inking, drawing, coding and practically every method over the past 5 weeks to bring this newest map together. Today we're looking at how to draw a Druid Enclave. I'll be drawing the map that is in front of us right now, which is a map of the ruins of Rostervale and its inhabitants, the Druids of Fern-na-Bolg. Here we can explore nature, ancient civilization, non-human golems and automatons, and the next step of the mystery in the Pirate King's treasure. I'm Ryan of the Red Quills, and I will be taking you through this map of the Druids of Fern-na-Bolg. So far this month we've been following along on the journey through the Gold Hunter's Sea, with treasure maps, pirate kings, floating cities and mystical isles. What we're aiming to do is demonstrate through a short series all of the different kinds of maps that you can use in your campaigns and how we can create them. Additionally, as we go along, we're discovering more and more the story of Yamok, the explorer who set out to kill the Pirate King before he can ascend to godhood. Quite apart from being a fun little exploration of all these locations, back to this map, it's a decorative naturalist map of all the areas with sketches of the golems, the ruins, and the devastation of an ancient calamity. All in all, back to this map, it's a decorative naturalist map of all the areas with sketches of the golems, the ruins, and the devastation of an ancient calamity. All in all, it's usable as a map, but its main function is as a very appealing lore dump to hand to your players. And as always, if we end with a product that we would be happy hanging on our wall, then we're good. We have 5 distinct stages in the creation of this map before we even go into the world building of it. We start by drafting the layout, measuring out where the illustrations, the text, the map, the inserts will be placed, and colouring the borders and the compass rows. Then we paint the illustrations themselves, the pictures of the overgrown golems, before moving on to the main map itself. Finally, the last 2 steps are the insert map and the lore text written in the gaps. When we're done, we end up with this. You can hand it to your players during the campaign, give it to them as a gift when they complete the quest, or keep it for yourself. It's as much a work of art as a piece of world building, but it can be used as a map. But let's start at the beginning, with a blank piece of paper. Then you'll want to make your sketch. An inch wide border, a compass rose, and a legend tucked into the corner. If you're making a location-specific map like this, then an insert map is required. I've isolated where the illustrations will be and done some quick doodles for the shape of them, and I've placed the map itself front and center. We've created other maps in other videos since this channel launched, and every time we discuss what you want to achieve as a world builder, what your theme is, what your intention is, what you want to explore, and of course this map is no different. But I'll take you through the process that I went through to demonstrate the process in action, and I'll talk about the specifics in the map making here for you. I started this sketch by creating the shape of a city. Whenever you create a ruin, I'm sure it'll come as no surprise, you should sketch out the shape of the complex or the city when it was at its height, and then cut the pieces off to make a ruin. It'll help you get the overall shape, give inspiration for details that you would not normally have thought of, and give you more opportunity to world build. In this case, that's precisely what I did. In the last Lore Archive video, The Keys of the Pirate King, I discussed some elements of the ancient and mysterious Golidi Dominion, which led directly to this map. I had a vision in mind, ancient, broken towers rising out of thick jungle canopy, cracks running through the ground, dark vapors rising from them, eons-old golems wandering through sunlit clearings, flowers growing on their stony skin, feeding the birds. The theme for this location is that sense of wistful loss, thinking about the forgotten past. As a world builder, I want this location to make the viewer wonder about whether the craftsmen who made the golems, about the people who painted their blank faces, about whether, in their cold silicon hearts, they missed the times that the city was filled with bells and laughter. Which brought me smoothly to the next concept that I wanted to explore. While I like the idea of the ruin being silent except for the wandering golems, I had already mentioned that the Druids of Fern-na-Bolg would be the focus of the next leg of the adventure, and so I would need to bring them in. Their symbol is nature, growth, and the forest. I already have the image in mind of the city being swallowed by the jungle, so I can use that. The golems with flowers on their backs arrive to mind too, so we only need to make a slight change. Now, some of the growth on the golems is on purpose. Some giggling child plants a flower on a golem's back with her mother. A lumbering stone creature carries the vegetable garden for a family on its back. The growth of the trees, which seems like the chaotic and inexorable march of nature to the outsider, is the purposeful cultivation of an ecosystem that thrives on the bones of a civilization. And this ties in nicely with the Druids. As a rule, nature mages tend to feel that cities, metropoli, the choking influence of thousands of souls crammed into one place is an unnatural and selfish order of things. This outcome there, when the hubris of the city allows the natural order to establish itself in its crumbling bones, is the ideal outcome. And now we get to the golems. They were the focus of my imagination. I mentioned in that previous video that the Golidi Dominion were credited as the inventors of golems, magic circles, and language. I've used all three of these ideas in this map. But being the inventors of golems gives the opportunity to explore all the different options for their creation. In classic lore, golems are humanoid. Clay sculptures given the shapes of men and with a command planted in their heads to animate them. Taken further, the next natural progression is using other animalistic shapes to specialize them in given tasks. That's the true focus of the map, I'll admit, these several specialized golems. Before I discuss the golems themselves, which I'll use as an opportunity to explore creating memorable creatures and NPCs, I want to touch on why I use them as a focus. Because I have the ruin theme and the nature theme, and the two work in harmony for a druid grove. The golems combine the two as well. They're moving relics, intertwined with plants and overgrowth. There's a rule of thumb that I use with world building, if you're basing it off themes. The rule is, big ideas, small examples. This whole city is a combination of ancient technology and natural magic. That's a big idea. But to make it appeal, I made a small, easily digestible example of those concepts that you could isolate on their own and still have those qualities. Hence the golems. And additionally, they have the benefit of their use as obstacles and NPCs. We're well into the drawing of the golems now. For this process, I had sketched out a quick shape of each of the creatures in different poses and angles and given them a rough shape. I know what I wanted them to look like before I put brush to paper, so I start with the light colors and work my way to darker and darker shades. In this case, I start with the light grey stone and then move to the greenery and the clay. I use complementary colors to shade, purple for the grey, red for the brown, and a blue for the green. And by the way, if you're watching this and thinking I can't paint like that, then don't underestimate yourself. It's tricky, sure, but if you take your time and you have a bit of practice, then you're capable of doing it. It takes a little while to get it down, so if you have the time to spare, give it a go. I've put a list of my equipment in the description so you know what you need to use. Anyway, I always start by making my dungeons, by planning who the big bad is or who the head honcho is. In some cases it could be a dragon, it could be the oracle of a doomsday cult, it could be the evil wizard or the head druid. They're the thematic choice. You build your army around them. Step 1 is decide on your major NPC. We're going to be using a content generation rule later for the mapping of the city that we'll talk about more later. But while we're on the subject of NPCs and creatures, let's talk about filling out your locations with mobile obstacles. In this case, I have the golems themselves. There are, or will be, references to other creatures throughout the ruins and the overhanging threat of the darkness curling from the cracks in the fundament, but as always, there's an applicable rule of thumb. In this case, it's the 1-3-5 rule. Every area that you're filling with NPCs, creatures, or bad guys always has 1 major character, 3 heavy hitters, and 5 brawlers. Another way you could do it is the Fibonacci sequence. 1 major, 1 lieutenant, 2 heavy hitters, 3 specialists, and 5 brawlers. In either case, when you're populating your areas, you will need 3 to 5 variations of enemy. In this case, I've made 5 variations of golem, but this is applicable to any location at all. So step 2 is choose your variations, and then we move on. The next step, as it will help you to figure out more and more about their relationships with one another, their interactions with the heroes, and more, is write your lore. You chose your major NPC for a reason. It could be to do with what you want your heroes to encounter rather than any in-world reason, but they should have a reason for being in this specific place. Then you work on their lieutenants. Why are they there? Why are they highly ranked? For the golems here, each kind of golem was created to perform a specific function. Their animalistic forms allow them to specialize, which makes them unique amongst golems. But their creators are long gone, and they cannot repair themselves, so they dwindle over time. In any case, we're in the next part of fleshing out this location. We've determined what the theme is, what we're going to fill the city ruins with in order to explore the concepts of the Golidi Dominion. Now we move on to the inhabitants. This is particularly applicable when you're designing a city. I've spoken about the process for that in previous videos. Check them out. But when you have a sprawling complex like this one, where your heroes can explore each crack and corner, you need to be able to fill those corners with details. Too many times have I come across a dungeon sprawl where every second room is a chamber with some crude decoration and no discernible function. Why is it there? Why bother making it? I'm bored already. Here, we have a ruin nearly a mile wide, inhabited by golems, built by the first empire in history. There should be a story, teeming from the very stones. There should be nooks and crannies to explore. A hero should be able to spend the entirety of the archaeological expedition here. And if that sounds like it's impossible, then let's see what we can do. That's what we're going to try to achieve. There's a rule of thumb that we use for cities that we're going to bring back here. Each city is 3 towns. Each town is 2 villages. What you want to have when working with content creation is, simply put, a fractal rule. Ideas that when you put them into place, you have a pattern that takes a relatively small amount of effort, but it allows you to fill it out more and more as you explore it. The rule before is a similar kind of idea. In this case, we're going to put a fairly fractal rule in place for this city so that you can continue to explore it going down. We're going to base it on the 5-chamber rule from How to Draw Your Dungeons, and tweak it a bit for ruins like this. Now, the 5 chambers are ambience, environmental danger, puzzle, trap or dead end, and conflict. So let's take this idea and build a rule to keep it going all the way down. The map here is of an area so large we could not record all of the details on one page. Each of these towers is a town on its own. Each of these floors of the towers could be villages. Writing out the content and function of each room would be a complete waste of time, as it's very unlikely that a hero would stay there for long enough to go through the whole thing. But you want to be prepared in case they do. So let's combine these rules into something more suited for a ruin like this. Like, each area has 5 locations, 3 variations, and 1 focus. You can use this rule in combination with the above rule about the 5 chambers. If you build a tower in one corner of the map and you haven't given it any details other than that it is the tower in which the astronomers gather, then you can apply this rule. The tower will have 5 levels, 3 rooms in each level, and 1 room at the top, which is the focus of its function. In this case, probably an enormous bronze telescope. You can connect them all. The environmental danger could span the height of the tower as a crack running through it. If you fall all the way to the Underdark. The puzzle could be an ancient door that requires a key that's hidden in another room that looks like a dead end. Let's move back to the practical questions. When you're making a map of a Druid Grove, what should you be including? What don't you want to forget? We'll run through the list and discuss each point. First and foremost is the central motif. As always, in any place of worship or veneration, the whole thing will be built around one central area that the inhabitants gather. It will be some place of significance or power. In this case, the sanctuary sits at the heart of the ruins. It's a circle of 6 tall stones of ancient and incredible protective power, and the Druids venerate it. Once, in ancient history, a cataclysm attempted to destroy the city, but broke on the protections of the sanctuary. The result is the shatter pattern of cracks in the bedrock of the city. Next is the living spaces. Druids live in harmony with their surroundings, particularly if those surroundings are nature. In this case, they inhabit the more central, structurally sound towers where the sides have crumbled away to leave their rooms open to the elements. They can feel the breezes wafting through, they can see the dawn with their own eyes every morning, and of course they are surrounded by plants and animals. Every Druid Grove needs a source of natural magic. All Druids source their power from the forces of nature, the cycles of life and death, and the flow of time. In this overgrown ruin, nature's power is evident. It is a slow, patient power, but it stands as a testament. What's more, the cracks in the bedrock open this environment to another, darker place. Dark power curls from the rifts like smoke, and the Druids harness and guard this power, keeping the balance. You'll also want to include libraries and archives. All learned scholars keep the sources of their knowledge safe. It could be a library, a store of artifacts, or just the old sages that pass their wisdom down from person to person. In my case, a tower on the southern wall serves as a library, protected and maintained by the golems. You'll want staging areas or planning rooms or war rooms, depending on the footing of the Druids. A large part of the veneration of nature is the protection of nature. Druids can be calm, quiet and retiring, but as civilization ever threatens to eat away at the boundaries of the forest, their peaceful veneer can be replaced with something more intense. They will have a headquarters for a more active protection of the natural forces, somewhere that they store weapons, talk strategy and tactics, and work together on patrolling the area. And of course, you'll need creature areas. A connection with animals is almost a requirement of being a druid. Living in harmony with nature means opening your sanctuary to all who need it, no matter whether they're furred, scaled, or feathered. In this case, the significant animals in question are the golems, which have their own area in the northwest quadrant, but creatures of the sky and forest are also welcomed and cared for. Now we get to the part where we talk about the history of this particular map and how it is connected to the wider campaign. If this is your first time watching the Red Quills, welcome. This is the 5th part of a 6-part series following a quest, map by map. By illustrating the maps as we go and fleshing them out as parts of an adventure, I can demonstrate the different kinds of maps that you can use in a campaign and how you can use them. This map of the Druids of Fern-na-Bolg is the fifth and penultimate part of this series. We started with a map of the Gold Hunter's Sea marked with the notes and scrawls that revealed it to have been the treasure map of the Pirate King, Amador Smoke-Eye, as well as hinting at the location of his treasure. An account written by the mapmaker on the back warned about Amador's intention to become a god. Sailing to the Gold Hunter's Sea, we stopped first at Smug Rock, the city of ships, nestled on the carapace of a gigantic crab, and then sailed on to the Isle of Dreams, where we found the door to Amador's vault. Beyond it lies the immeasurable hoard of the Pirate King, but the door requires two things to open it: a key and a password. The password is hinted at here and there through the maps, particularly into the accounts that can be found with the maps, all written by the Pirate King's nemesis, Yamoke, who is attempting to find and kill Amador. The last map we found, which was a coded map that Yamoke left while still captured by the Pirate King, leaves clues as to how to discern the password, find the key, and open the door. All those maps pointed here, to the Druids of Fern-na-Bog. If you're following along with the quest, your heroes will need to sail across the Gold Hunter's Sea, over the rift, and finally to Furtalis and the ruins of Rostivalen. Here they can find the Enclave of the Druids and the key. The Druids hate and fear Amador, and if travelers earn their trust, they will happily reveal critical information. That Amador vanished some 200 years ago, after ruthlessly conquering the seas for decades, and that when he first rose to power, he came to the ruins and easily overpowered their defenses. The golems that the Druids live with in harmony turned against them and obeyed the Pirate King without question. Amador left the key under guard in the High Walk Tower, guarded by one golem that still obeys him, a Pa golem named Uruk-Pa. In order to retrieve the key, they will need to overpower the golem, which may activate some dormant self-defense mechanism in all of the others. And we're finishing up now. If you want more lore on the Golidi, on Yamoke or Amador, or on the Gold Hunter's Sea in general, you can check out the Lore Archive series and the episode that we will be releasing to pair with this map, titled Fern-na-Bog. And now we have a usable map, something decorative and practical. I hope that this video has proven helpful. As always, you can chuck a question in the comments below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you as always to our supporters. It's wonderful to be involved in this community. I'll see you next time. Good luck on your adventures.